quickly go over diabetes management. We have 4 students in the high school with diabetes and 2 that have seizures, so we're going to quickly go over that too. But for the diabetes management, they can be hypoglycemic or hyperglycemic. Hypo is, they have a little more symptoms of that. That's where they'll start feeling shaky, sweaty, hungry, irritable. You can just follow along with a handout. That's usually when their blood sugar is less than 70. They can tell you in class if they're kind of feeling that way. They usually know. And you can just get them up to the front office. You can call Miss Susan Smith and come help get them to the office. Or have another student walk them up to the office. And we'll check it with a glucometer. If you're ever the one to have to check it. If they're conscious, what you want to do if it's less than 70 is do not leave them alone. You always want to make sure somebody is there with them. And you'll give them 15 grams of simple carbohydrates. I put on here some of those things. 4 ounces of orange juice, 4 ounces of soda, 8 ounces of Gatorade, 3 glucose tablets, 4 to 5 hard candies, or half a pack of Lifesavers. You can also do any other kinds of juices like apple juice or grape juice, just different things like that. After you give them that, you'll recheck their blood sugar in 10 to 15 minutes and see if it's gone up. If it remains less than 70, you just repeat what you just did. And in 10 to 15 minutes, check it again. When it's greater than 70, if their next meal is more than an hour away, you want to go ahead and get them something to eat. Like I said, most of the time they'll be up here in the office, but it's just if you're having to do it. You can always call me at the other school too. My extension is 3222, and I'll help you as much as I can. If they are combative or unconscious or having a seizure, you'll just want to go ahead and call 911. You can administer glucagon, IM in their thigh, but most of the students don't have glucagon, so just go ahead and call 911 and get somebody here on the way. Managing hyperglycemia, that's when it's greater than 300. Most of the time they're not even going to know unless it's too high where you're basically going to need to call an ambulance or mom to come get them. And that's when they're having nausea and vomiting, like we had one today with nausea and vomiting. Hers was real high, but sometimes they have symptoms just like excessive urination, excessive thirst, blurry vision, headache, difficulty concentrating, and increased fatigue. All they'll do, come up here, check their blood sugar like they do regularly at lunchtime. If it's too high, they inject themselves with their own insulin. Notify parents and guardians says greater than 300, but some of those, they each have their own diabetic management care plan from their doctor. So there's copies of those up here in the office. Some of them want you to call over 300, some of them don't. But most of the time there's nothing we can really do except give them their insulin and then they're fine. They need to increase their water intake. And if they're going to the restroom a lot, you want to make sure somebody's going with them if it's over 300. That's about it for that. Does anybody have questions about anybody with diabetes, any of the students? Okay, so we'll just go over seizure management real quickly because with hypoglycemia, a lot of times you can start seizing if it is too low, and like I said, we have 2 students with seizures as well. So just basically all you want to do is try to stay calm. You usually can't remove them from the room, but if you can get other kids out of the room just while you have them, provide support laying down. Try to put them on their left side, usually in case they start vomiting or anything. They're not going to aspirate and swallow that vomit. Just try to keep them safe. Don't restrain them. Don't put anything in their mouth at all. And then just record the seizure. You want to always look at the clock to see what time it started and what time it ended. Those are just for like small seizures. If they have tonic-clonic seizures, which are the lay on the floor really jerking and all, always protect their head, make sure their airway is open, and then just support them, watch their breathing. Like I said, same thing on their left side. Emergency protocol, always contact Miss Susan Smith. These that have had seizures before, you don't always have to call 911 unless it lasts over 5 minutes. If it's longer than 5 minutes, go ahead and dial 911. If not, they're okay to stay in class afterwards as long as the parent is comfortable with that and they've been checked out by a nurse. So they're fine to stay in the classroom. But if it's the first time, call 911, get them gone. like I said, last longer than 5 minutes, or if they become unconscious, if they stop breathing at any time, turn blue, anything like that. I emailed a lot of the teachers that had those with seizures, and hopefully they got that. And if you have any questions, always, like I said, feel free to call me. Any questions?
Thank you. We have several other different types of information sessions like that we have to have. You got a student with an issue, call office. You know, we're not getting into it and all that kind of stuff. They have a seizure, you know, you make them comfortable, push the button, and we'll take it from there. If they have a seizure for 30 seconds, they're going home. They're not going to stay in class. They'll go home. If they don't come out of it, then we'll call 911. But for your role, if you have one that has seizures, just make them comfortable as you can. Call us. We'll come. If they have diabetes and a sugar level, and you know something, just call us, and then we'll come get them. Right, so that's good information, but you know, there's no way y'all can give water, take them to the bath, and all that kind of stuff. I can see it on your faces. So we gotta take them to the bath. We take care of all of that in the front office. Okay? I don't pass these around. These are just the Innovator Reliability Probes. Just take ones in front and back. It's a breakdown of kind of just to give you an idea when we coming through our walkthroughs and doing our formative walkthroughs and stuff. Just give you an idea of some of the stuff or what we'll be looking for. So when you're doing your planning, you can kind of take this along with your blue card and plan your lessons at the proficient or the exemplar level. So that's just another tool that hope will be helpful to you as you're planning your lessons. So we do our walkthroughs. You can at the very least receive a proficient and stay away from the ineffective or leads development. Okay?
Who wants to go first? Which department? Okay. Okay. Got instructional strategies look like varying and engaging strategies, higher order thinking skills, application, current and relevant applications. Then the documents to prove that you've done these instructional strategies are lesson plans, student work, assessments, and data notebook samples. Instructional strategies is not, they are not research-based, no engagement, same strategies, no variation, and no differentiation. And we do have a question. If items on the TEKS observation are not seen or they're misunderstood, can we give explanations and samples, you know, provided by us, the teachers? Can we do that? That's what we want to know. Like if what we're doing in class that day is misunderstood or something, or either we're not, you know, it's a different than what you were looking for, can we give something? Maybe the day before, what we did the day before may have applied to what we were doing the day you came in, but you didn't see that.
All right.
Okay, so that's what we want.
We look at, on our walkthroughs, we look at 3, 4, 7, and 8 on the walkthroughs. 3, 4, 7, 8 are items that supposed to be in every lesson that you do. In the formative assessments, we'll look at all 10 of them. That's when it may, some things, that's when we'll ask for your data notebook, if it's something that we did not see, like for example, if I walk in on a formative assessment and I didn't see something, then I would just simply ask the question. Or you can, you know, you can volunteer the information to me. But hopefully between your data notebook, your lesson plans, your phone logs, and the information that I ask for, I can get what I need. But if I'm not sure, then when we share it with you, you can always come and clarify stuff with us, okay? Or like for example, on your lesson plan, sometimes you may be off on your lesson plan. You may have done, I mean, walking in, what you've done, you may have had a delay, and you may be a day or two off. And that's fine, you just have to let us know. Yes,
One
ma'am.
other question I had to think that we didn't put up there was like, because sometimes, you know, when you have your lesson plan, it's all planned out, but then you see that day that they need an extra day. We need to
Exactly.
go back and do whatever.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
that may not be on the plan.
Right,
You know, it may be something that goes along with what we've been doing.
right, right. Anything like that, you can just tell us. That's not an issue at all. That you can just tell us. And if you don't know it, it's not so much the content as to the way that you're doing the lesson, okay? So if you're a little bit behind on whatever the content was, the way that you're doing the lesson, being engaging, student participation and stuff like that, that's mainly what this model is about. So I wouldn't too much worry about if I'm a little bit off a day or two, or if I differentiate it, if your lesson plan has a differentiated activity on Wednesday, and I came in on Wednesday and you had to do something that required you to move it to Thursday, then you just tell us. You know, if I say, well, I come to see your differentiation or one of the other ministers, you say, well, no, I'm off a day, I'll move it to Thursday. And you can do that after we leave the room. You can just shoot us an email or see us later that day or whatever, because we've got 5 days before we have to give you a response. And while we're talking about that, well, that's all right, I'll clear that email up a little bit. I think it was a little confusion, especially to the two names that was on the email. The reason I sent that email out is I was really shocked that I had gotten that email, because I'd done that. I did the walkthroughs, I guess it was that afternoon. And when I got back to my office that morning, when I opened my email, it was an email from the DOE saying that you've already did 1 day and you've got 5 days, you have not finalized or shared that walkthrough. And I was like, ah, man. And I didn't realize that it was being monitored like that. So I just wanted that's why I sent it out to you. It didn't have anything to do with Mr. Carroll and Mr. Rayner. They actually did a pretty good job. I just wanted you to see that this thing is real, and they are monitoring these things. And they do send reports. Ms. Bain is kind of the teats and leaps gatekeeper, and they send reports to her, and she sent reports to us. So this thing is for real, y'all, and I just want everybody to, and that's why we're doing these training, and that's why you always hear me talking about it, and that's why I'm always passing out handouts, little things to let you know when you plan your lesson, use these handouts, use that blue card. Because when we come in there, it is what it is. If it's not an engaging lesson or it doesn't fit in that rubric, and we've all used rubrics, and we know how rubrics work. And if it doesn't fit in that rubric, then we can't give you proficient for it. So when you plan your lessons or plan the way you're going to present your lesson, do it with the sheet I just passed out in mind, and also do it to the level of that rubric. Then that way, when we come in there, then it's not an issue. But it's a process. And remember, everything is on the totality of the evidence. So if you miss it, and you get an ineffective or needs development, then that's something that we just need to talk about. And then that's something that whoever gives you the ineffective or the needs development should be able to talk to you about how we can get it moved to the proficient block. Okay? Did I answer your question? Okay. All right, next.
Look like more student-centered, the learners are actively engaged, we've got good use of time management, high order questioning, differentiated instruction, and our documents to prove that was lesson plans and work samples. Instructional strategies are not sit and get every day, total recall, and non-meaningful tasks, and we don't have any questions.
Thank you.
All right, for the social studies, that's what it said. Jim, Andy. All right, so social strategies look like differentiation for learners, a variety of teaching methods, activities that promote higher order thinking and engaging students. It does not look like a one-size-fits-all lesson using only one method or not challenging students to think. Pretty much, we don't want lessons that put all to sleep. The evidence is a data notebook, student work, lesson plans, curriculum maps, and level 4 questions on assessments. And we have no questions.
Okay, have English language arts and instructional strategies look like teachers use a variety of instructional strategies, engage students in higher order thinking skills, applies learning in current ways, documents to prove it, lesson plans, assessments, and data notebook. What it doesn't look like is always lecturing or doing a whole group. Assess through basic recall, does not relate learning to the real world, and we're good.
The Parks Department. Instructional strategies look like using multiple techniques to meet students' needs, engaging students, covering all concepts in your standards, questioning, asking students questions, and making it exciting for them. Documents to prove our lesson plans, student surveys, thank you, and the growth on standardized tests. And instructional strategies are not talking above students' heads, applying a one-size-fits-all teaching method, and lots of discipline problems. I'm using my questions.
I'm going to do mine in Spanish, so just follow along. No, for instructional strategies, we have engaging lessons, students actively participating in learning, evidence of a variety of instructional strategies, and then frequent checks for understanding. And our evidence, lesson plans, student work, data notebook, and then what it is not, a one-size-fits-all approach, students off task because they're not engaged, and the lack of formative assessments. And no equity will pass.
Okay, for CTAE, we do not label that. It looks like differentiation, varied classroom techniques and strategies, higher order thinking and questions. Higher order thinking. And our questions are also higher order thinking. It's relevant to the real world. Students are engaged in integrating technology. It's not mismanaged classroom, not a one-size-fits-all approach. It's not memorization, and then it's not real world, or it doesn't connect to real world. Lesson plans, assessments, framework, data notebook, and handy maps for the documents, and we have no questions.
All right, if y'all remember, well, first of all, we have any questions about what it looks like and what it doesn't look like? If y'all remember, this is my 7th year. When I first came here, we were in an NI 4 or NI 5 with as far as the No Child Left Behind. And we introduced the mathematic instructional framework. And this is something that we should have been doing. You know, we all know at the opening, the work session, and the closing with the summary to include the get out the doors and things of that nature. But what we want to do is reintroduce the framework to you in case, because this framework is very important as far as tying it into the requirements to achieve a proficient or a exemplary on your walkthroughs, on your formative assessments, and then finally on your summative assessments. So we need to reintroduce our framework. We need to plug our lessons into the framework and use it as a model to keep you on point. And the reason I say that is because sometimes, and I've done very few walkthroughs already, and there's been a few where the teacher never really, the whole class, the teacher never really got out of the opening. So the teacher was in the opening, and I know you know, and that happens when you introduce the lesson. I understand that, but this was actually at the end of the lesson trying to do some kind of review. So the lesson had already been through it, and it was kind of at the end of the lesson. And when I say the teacher never got out of the opening, there was no work session, there was no student involvement, there was no student engagement, and then there was no closing. There was no closing, there was no summary of the work, there was no student feedback. What this framework does, and we have one for everybody, what I was going to do is let each group come up and talk about the framework, but we're not going to do that for the sake of time. We'll resend this out to everybody if we haven't already. We'll resend it out, and it's one for, how do I get the next one on?
Should just be able to scroll down.
Yeah, I did it. It's stuck on me. But anyway, while she's working with that, we need to refamiliarize ourselves with the framework. All right, and in that what it use it as a kind of a guide as to how we'll progress through our class. Okay, and it used to come when they first sent it out. They had a time line on it. You know, you can stay so much in this and so much in that and so much in this. But we introduced this. This is nothing new to us, and we just need to refamiliarize ourselves with it. This goes into a lot of detail of what the framework should consist of, and we'll send this back out to you. If it's not, of course, like dance, for an example, you know, it's not a specific framework in here, so you can just use the outline for it specifically address certain, well, there's health and PE, but it specifically address certain subjects. Well, there's fine arts, I apologize. So just look at your framework, refamiliarize it, use it as kind of a guide as to how you'll progress through your class each day. And I think it'll be beneficial as far as helping you stay on task and make sure that you're reaching that level of at least proficient. Okay? Because like I said before, in this model here, if we see it, you know, you get credit. If you don't, if we don't see it, then it'll be either inefficient or needs development. On walkthroughs, we'll be looking for standards 3, 4,
7 and 8.
7 and 8 on walkthroughs. Instructional strategies, differentiated instruction, positive learning environment, and academically challenging environment. Okay. On formative assessments, we'll be looking for all 10. And that's when we'll ask you for your documentation. And summative assessments, we'll be looking for all 10.
When do y'all want to start formative assessment?
We'll do 3 walkthroughs, and then we'll start formative.
And that's when you'll say, ready to look.
Right. When we look for all 10, we'll ask you, this is a formative assessment. Walkthroughs last 10 minutes. Formative assessments last 30 minutes. So if I'm in your room doing a formative, basically, I will still be looking, well, I'll be looking at, your lesson plan or whatever, professional knowledge, just listening to what you're saying and know you're very knowledgeable. 2, instructional planning. 5, your assessment strategies. That's what your data notebook will tell me. 6, your assessment use. That's what your data notebook will tell me, is how you've been assessing and how you've been using it. 9, your professionalism. Are you on time? Are you dressed properly? How you communicate with the students? Just being a professional. Just being a professional and how you react with your co-workers, how you react with the administration, those type of things. And of course, communication. Any type of communication, your 911, phone logs, emails, phone calls, any type of communication. And documentation of that is what we'll ask for when we do the formative assessment.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
When y'all come in at 10 minutes, that's a lot to cover in a little bit of time. And like if I'm showing a video and I'm discussing it, and their kids are watching the video, can we walk over there and tell you what we're gonna do with this in the classroom?
Well, if you're doing video, I wouldn't too much worry about the video. I'll just come back.
I mean, like I use it in that context, like you're going over, because I stop it and we go over, like in the psychology and everything, I go through it. But like, if the students are engaged in it, say, if they're reading something, reading process and all this, we walk over there and say, this is what we're gonna be doing with this, and this is how I'm gonna close it.
Right.
To kind of go over it. Cause like 10 minutes, you can catch me at the beginning, it's.
Right. And if you walk over and said, after this video, I'm gonna do this and this, I'll even come back, or I'm just sitting there.
Okay, I just wonder, cause y'all come in 10 minutes and then sometimes you just, you're just getting started and you can't cover all of them.
Well, that's why if you look at 3, okay, that's an instructional strategy. So that's really not a timeline thing. 4 is a differentiated. It may vary on what you're doing that day. Sometimes, if I look at that's why, if I'm looking at your lesson plan, and based on your lesson plan, if I'm looking for differentiation, and you saying, according to your lesson plan, students will be in groups and be whatever, then I may just come that day. If you're off that day, then you just tell me when you're gonna do that, and then I'll come back. Because I have 5 days to respond to. So if you're off one day and you say, well, we're gonna do a differentiation tomorrow, then I may do 3, 7, and 8, and just come back for the differentiation part on 4. So there's some flexibility. On 7, it's basically a positive learning environment. So in 10 minutes, if I walk in and they're all over the place, but if I walk in and they're sitting down and it's a positive learning environment, then that's something that, is good in 10 minutes. And then academically challenged. I can tell by the way you're asking your question. Kids are copying out of got a worksheet, and kids are just copying out of the worksheet. They got several different conversations going on all over the room. That's not academically challenged. So those 4 are things that's really not a time requirement, if you read them, they're really not a time requirement. Those are just things that in 10 minutes we can't assess. Because you're right, it wouldn't be fair. That's why when we look at all 10, we're in there for 30 minutes. Or if we need to go longer, we can sit in there a little bit longer. Okay, any questions? Yes, sir.
How many walkthroughs? You said 5? Y'all do 5 walkthroughs?
We do, the state requires 3, we're gonna do 6.
How about forming themselves?
The state requires 2, we're gonna do 4. And the reason we're gonna do that is for that very reason, in case we miss something. We may have missed something. Okay? Any other questions? So the biggest thing is just look at your rubric. Academically challenged environment, it spells it out. The sheet I passed out today, and if you didn't get one, make sure you get one. Or there may be some extras floating around here.
They're right here.
Okay. And it'll kind of give you, it's not meant to be a check sheet, but it'll further explain to you kind of what it should look like. You guys are right on these things up here. What you're saying, I mean, you are right on with these instructional strategies, what they should look like and what they shouldn't look like. Now it's from taking it off the board and applying it in our classes. Okay. Any other questions? And like I've told you, from our standpoint, it is not a got you type deal. That's why I'm just, as much information as I can get to you, as much training as we need, until we get a complete understanding of what this new evaluation model calls for, and that's what we'll do. Because it's unfair to hold you accountable for something that you hadn't been properly trained. And that you hadn't been properly trained and know exactly what is expected. Now, implementing it and applying it, that's your end. But on my end, and our administrative end, and our instructional facilitator end, we're gonna train on it, we're gonna talk about it, we're gonna make sure that everybody's got a complete understanding. And how I know that is when we do our walkthrough, how they all pan out. If you get a walkthrough and it's not enough information on there as to why you received something, please come talk to me if you're on my list, and talk to one of the other administrators if you're on their list of being list of people that's being walked through. Okay? If you need to know why this thing is a process, please come and ask me why. I should be able to tell you why you got, if it's an ineffective or if it's a needs development, if the notes in there doesn't give you enough explanation, then please come talk to us and so we can clarify. So whatever it is that we didn't see, each one of us should be able to explain it to you and tell you exactly why you got either the ineffective or the needs development. But I think if you plan with this in mind and you look at this knowledge sheet and you plan your lessons around this, then I think you're gonna be fine. I know we use worksheets. Be careful with worksheets. I know we use them, and that's fine to use them, but be thinking about a way you can get students actively involved when you use your worksheet. Not just throw it up under the ammo and fill in the answers, and the kids have worksheets and they're filling in the answers. That is not, that's where academically challenging environment comes in. And student engagement and all that stuff comes in. So just think about it. And you get tired of me talking about it. I received this book, I'll close. I received this book right here called Moving Minds. I guess, Mr. Bates, did you give me this?
Yeah.
Yeah, called Moving Minds. And it's just a, and I'll pass it around, and y'all look at some of the stuff that they have in here just at a desk, and I'll pass it around, you can look at it. One desk has a thing on it, like a mini bike on it, and students are doing work and pedaling at the same time.
Oh, I need to go to that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, right here. You can look at it where you want. You got stuff for teachers too, moving desks, kids are not sitting down anymore, they're standing up, and they got things on the bottom of the, that's just what it's going to.
That's awesome.
I don't get no electric shock. But that's just kind of good moving out.
Can we hook one up?
No, we ain't not. You can make from that your house. But that's kind of what it's all about engagement, y'all. It's all about engagement, and we just have to shift our way of thinking and our way of doing things with this motto in mind. And I know it's frustrating. It's frustrating when I go to the board office, or I sit in a webinar, or I go up to RISA, and here it is. Here's something else. But unless we're gonna get out in this profession, you know, we have to adjust. And unless we're gonna leave the state of Georgia, this model is everywhere. Some states have this, some states still have No Child Left Behind, but all states in the United States have some type of assessment model. And the common thread through assessments are rigor, student engagement, and growth and test scores. Anywhere you go in the United States, you're gonna have that. So we might as well just accept it. And like I always say, the things that cause the most feeling of overwhelmness is worrying about things we have no control over. And I have no control over this, neither do you. So we just accept it and move forward. That's why we're going to try to get that information out to you. As much if you have questions, please come ask questions. If you need clarification, please come get clarification. If you, anything, if you're not unsure about something, you need to talk something through, please let us know so we can talk it through. I don't claim to be the expert. If I don't know the answer, I just ask Audrey. So that's just the way it works with me. Okay, so any other questions as far as, yes ma'am?
I'm sorry, this is off topic, but you talk about engagement. When are the kids gonna get their netbooks? Are they gonna get netbooks this year, or they're asking about?
Right, yeah, I had a young lady ask me, let me tell you what's happening with netbooks. They're in the process now of purchasing, let me tell you, as I got it as of a couple weeks ago. They're in the process now of purchasing some type of tablet, and they're going to go to the seniors. And then, of course, the 9th, 10th, 11th grade will get the netbooks. And what has delayed everything is just coming into the new building. We still, I don't know if do they have all the labs set up?
They're on mine.
They're on her lab, and they're in the process of setting one up in the media center. Once they get all the labs and everything set up, then they'll start imaging and re-imaging the netbooks and get them ready. So tell the student they are coming, but with the transition period, it's just delaying. It's just
That
delaying.
sounds like is that gonna be like after Christmas?
No, it'll be before that.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be before Christmas. I think the time frame is like October, or something like that. In the meantime, once they get the lab set up, we have 4 labs. One is completely empty. Then we'll have, and I guess we'll get with Ms. Brantley and see how we schedule these labs in case you need a lab until netbooks come. Do they usually schedule it through the media center, or they schedule it
I guess it'll be through me for
Okay.
the media center, and I think as soon as I get chairs
The
and
chairs in there.
really,
We need chairs.
wow.
We need chairs.
How many y'all
We don't
need?
have enough chairs.
We don't, we're just
Kind
kind
of
of
sharing
sharing
them now.
But y'all got black chairs, right? I bought new burgundy chairs, we have to just, we'll take care of that.
By the end of the week, I may be ready to go. Jennifer had a few more she had to work on, a few more, and Charles has to do some things, but I think that we're pretty close to being set up.
So we have 2 fully functional labs.
Can
If
they
you-
print in those labs as well?
Yes, ma'am.
When
And-
ours are up and running, they're fully functional printing and everything.
Now, if y'all got new, what did y'all do with your old printers?
They have them.
Who is they?
They're
Okay, because you gonna need a printer.
I don't have a printer right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can change them out or get you one. So we do have computer labs available. I think they're on the last one. And y'all
It takes
said-
about a week.
Yeah,
And they've been online, today was the first day they worked online.
okay. So it's, if you want to change your pace and come in here, you got the pen for here and it's working.
Well, they have to bring their own pen.
Oh, you have to bring your own pen. Okay, you have to bring your own pen, but it's working. And they just project the same thing as y'all saw. Yes, ma'am.
I know Audra's come and really been working, trying to get my pen going. But I think a lot of people are having issues with the pens. So when do we think that that might be resolved, that we can, so I had a great closing activity today with the pen, and then Audra had just fixed it on Friday, and then it wouldn't work again today?
Yeah, that's a Jennifer Tatum question. We'll,
I'm sure you've been in contact with her.
yeah, and we'll do a follow-up, because, I mean, this is too much money and too much
To not work.
to not work, exactly. So if it continues, then I'll just go to the superintendent and just, say it's not working. Get the people down here or change out or whatever they do. Any other questions? I know it's a lot going on, I know it's time consuming and stuff like that, but I just want you to be informed. I just want you to know up front what's expected so that we can go ahead and attack it. I know it's a lot, but I don't, other than, it's just the cards that we've been dealt. And we just have to try to work our way through this whole process. And I know how it's an election year, and I know how the old saying, depending on who gets elected, they may change it up. But it won't be this school year because they spent too much money. So I know it won't be this school year. So I know at least this school year, this is the model that we're going to be assessing. So let's just try to accept it with a good positive attitude, and let's just try to do our very best to work through it. Any other questions? Coach, y'all have anything?
I was going to just remind you, we're in the midst of homecoming, and, we had to adapt to the new school, same school rules and policies are in place, no outside food or drink, and we're only limiting just the old cafeteria, new cafeteria for the homecoming sign. So there shouldn't be anything in the hallways or on the doors, just poster size. We kind of asked them not to put up banners, so we are putting a restriction on banners, just poster size, just in the old and new cafeteria. And then save the date, it's on that timeline, but September 19th, which will be a Friday, we'll report first period to homeroom. So we'll see that, the campaign video, and then also conduct our vote.
Sorry, did you send this out to everybody?
I did.
Okay. Only thing missing, we got the map. We'll have the map so you know which door you're going to pull out of, but this is our fire severe weather drill schedule. And it tells you at the bottom things to bring with you. And then here it tells you where to go. And okay, and that'll be in your box tomorrow. Okay. For the baseball field, as you walk out, there's when you go like to the new senior parking lot, there's a double gate out in the outfield. that'll be open, that's where you go through. In the football practice field, as you go out, there's another gate. As you go up the concrete sidewalk, right before you get to the big double gate that goes into the field house, there's a gate off to your right, and that's where you would enter. But the map will show you. And then the grassy area for those is just right out front. And then of course, PE and ROTC, everybody, that auditorium, that's on the bus ramp where you've always been.
Is it out front, will we come out this front, or will we go through the lunchroom and go out?
Y'all come right out front.
Out front.
Yes, ma'am. The luxury, that's a construction site, so y'all just move right. And the maps will be in your box tomorrow. Yes, ma'am.
Did you ever send out the change in the communities, like you said, something went back instead of forward or something?
Right, I'll send that out. I made the change, and as far as homecoming, that change has been made, and I'll send it out to you. But to answer your question, I have not, but I will. I did make the change. I think I went forward, I should have went back. All right, no other questions. Thank you for your time.